You are now watching Zach Lesage, the best place to learn about competitive Pokemon TCG. Let's get it! Yo, what's poppin' peeps? Welcome back to the channel. Zach Lesage here. Today we're going to be covering over the top 8 decks of the Late Night Series number 18. This deck was littered with Mew VMAX decks. Quite literally, there were so many Mew VMAX decks that we covered Mew VMAX quite a few times in this video. That being said, you will learn a lot about that deck and some of the other top decks in the format. All the lists are going to be in the description, or the link to the list is going to be in the description. I do want to give a huge shout out to Limitless for allowing me to run events on their platform. I'm super grateful to run the largest events in the entire game for everyone right now. And shout out to PTCGO Store and Atlas for both allowing me to do that as well. That being said, let's jump into these decks and really see what happened at the Late Night Series number 18 event. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. Let's get it. So the Late Night Series had over 325 players. There was 327 players, in fact. And it's the, again, we keep on pushing these numbers where it's the largest event for Fusion Strike formats in real life, online, whatever. So I'm incredibly grateful for that fact. You can see that there's a lot of decks that we've seen in these events, and I mean, one thing that's very obvious is that Mew VMAX is the type of deck that's been really popping off lately. So one thing that I try to do in these things is kind of cover where I feel about these decks. This one might get a little bit shorter because there are a little bit Mew VMAX decks, but every Mew VMAX is built differently. If we look, you might be wondering why was there a top 20? So the way that I did this tournament was players who had 27 match points out of the 12 rounds, so that's a 9-3 record or better, were able to advance to top cut. I totally thought we'd have 16 players. So as I play around with these, as the tournaments get larger to kind of compensate for that, it's one of those things where we will figure it out along the way. It's not easy to run tournaments online and figure it out all the time. So in the top 20, we had a lot of really cool decks. We had a Gengar deck. Anyone who plays Gengar has a special spot in my heart. I absolutely love the Gengar players. Rapid Strike, Urshifu, E-Turn, Turbo Zacian, Mew, another Rapid Strike, Zacian, Mew, Rapid Strike, Suicune, Ludicolo, and another Mew. So Mew is going to be the key word here. We're going to start off with Azul, though. So Azul being one of the absolute best players in the game, it's crazy. One thing that I want to comment on is in the top 8 of this tournament, we had the Players' Cup 3 champion, Azul. We had the Players' Cup 4 champion, Alex Szymanski, and myself, the Players' Cup 2 champion, running the event. So you can see that everyone's kind of dealing with that. So Azul changing it up with Jolteon VMAX. I think Jolteon VMAX is definitely a cool deck. The strategy of the deck is to use Max Thunder Rumble to do 100 damage to your opponent's active, and then do some damage counters with Quick Shooting or Headbutt Tantrum to really maximize on Max Thunder Rumble by doing 100 damage to a Pokemon that has damage counters on it already. Using the Drizzile engine to search out whatever you want. I think Azul's list looks absolutely amazing. If anything, it almost looks exactly the same as my list. Although I think Azul's playing Fan of Waves, whereas I have different techs for the deck. I think I play an extra Scoop Up Net. Fan of Waves is very good when it comes to this deck. The reason why Fan of Waves is so good when it comes to this deck is because the format's filled with special energies. Think of the top decks in format. Mew VMAX running 4 Fusion Strike energies, 2 Psychic energies, right? Like, special energies galore. Even in this deck, there's more special energies than basic energies. So really, I think Azul's take on this deck is very on trend with the metagame. I think that's one thing that I just want to point out. I think it's very on trend. Azul usually playing better lists than most other players in these tournaments. And between being a better player than most and playing a better list than most and not really making mistakes and all that kind of stuff, I think that's really where Azul is going to be seeing some success. So there's a reason why you see players like Azul in the top 8 more often than not. Less mistakes, better lists, better plays, all these kind of things, stronger metagame calls. Let's go ahead and see exactly what else we got going on. Starting off with Tim 101, we're going to see the kind of onslaught of Mew. So Mew, the new build that we had that was able to come like first, second at the Late Night Series number 17, the Meloetta Turbo build is really taken over. So if anyone's really wondering what's the best way to play Mew, I think Meloetta without Peony. It took me a second. I really would have thought that decks that don't really play supporters are not always good. I literally was, I remember telling my buddy Josh, I was like, because he asked me, he's like, Zach, which one do you think's better? And I'm like, honestly, Josh, I don't know. For first and foremost, Mew's constantly evolving. And my logic was, well, if we think about every other deck has kind of some kind of traditional supporter base, and decks that really fall off that path don't typically do as well as what we have going on in the future. So it's one of those things where a deck that plays only 7 supporters and they're not draw supporters at all typically doesn't do well. But that was me underestimating Fusion Strike's system, or I mean, kind of like, even the Peony build is a weird build compared to other metagame decks. But right now, Mew VMAX is going to be trying to copy things with Cross Fusion Strike. Copying Melodious Echo allows you to have opportunities to attack as early as your first turn, where you're able to go Ellis's Sparkle, attach a Fusion Strike energy, and hit hard between 140 to 210 plus, because there's also those power tablets. So this is really the popularized build that we've seen a lot of success with. I think it's Edward Valencia and Vincent Artsy have both been really popularizing this build. So congrats to them for coming up with a cool build. If anyone else came up with it, my bad. But overall, I think that this deck is solid. I really don't see too much that I would change about it. Maybe you cut a training court for a Rose Tower. Maybe adding in a Tool Jammer for Turbo Zacian or anything else like that. In a Mew meta, I think this seems like a very good build. I really don't have any issues with that at all. Just with what people are playing in there. So I think Mew is going to be really popular. If you're not playing Mew, you got to quite ask yourself, why are you not playing Mew? So shout out to Tim101, 3 Canadians in the top cut, 4 Canadians in the top 10, Canada representing. We got Isaiah Chevelle, and we're going to be running through these lists, the Mew list, because they're all going to be very similar. You can see that they went for 4 stadiums: an Old Cemetery, Training Court, Crystal Cave, Rose Tower. All of these cards can do different things in there, where Crystal Cave can heal the Genesects, and Old Cemeteries can do damage to your opponent's Pokemon, and Rose Tower can draw you some cards. You can see the builds are very similar, whereas Ellis's Sparkle is lesser here, or bosses is less. I can't remember. Lists are basically going either 3 Ellisas or 3 boss, or 4 Ellisas, 4 boss, or maybe 6. I think playing 3 and 3 is completely fine. Overall, again, super similar list. The Crammatics, Battle VIP Pass, the goal is to really get set up in whatever, but I think it's again, Mew VMAX just really Cross Fusion Strike, copying Techno Blast or Melodious Echo, Psychic Leap. Energy Mix rarely gets used. You have Max Miracle against Duraludon, Zamazenta, things like that. Deck's really good. You can see, like, we have another one up here, Liam. So Liam playing again at Mew VMAX. We're seeing the one with 2 Meloetta. Again, like, it's all a combination of lists. One thing that this list does not play is stadiums. So if this deck just ran into a Path to the Peak deck, it would not be able to use Fusion Strike system. So I'd say, even though that Pokegear seems really cool, I think the cuts are too vital for making this deck better than what it could be. So we do want to keep that in mind as we kind of go into it. Like, this deck is just not as well constructed as the others. The idea is there to be more of a turbo build, but if you just run into a Path to the Peak, your deck probably folds. I'm actually like wondering if they ran into any decks that would run Path traditionally. Does this deck run Path to the Peak? No, they just lost to an Ice Rider naturally. They ran through the tournament though. Maybe their build's just more turbo and that works out. They didn't run into any decks that play Path though. They ran into a lot of Mirrors. Maybe it does better in Mirror, and that's where it's worthwhile. So maybe I do like Liam's list. I'm not sure. We have Vina, another really strong player, playing a very similar list to every other person. You can see that the techs are changing a little bit. There's an Escape Rope. Instead of playing 3 switch, there's 2 switch, 1 Escape Rope. There's a Tool Jammer. That's really where the changes are. Are you playing 4 stadiums, or are you playing 3 stadiums? Are you playing 3 switch, or are you playing 2 switch and an Escape Rope? Are you playing 4 Rotom Phone, or are you playing a Tool Jammer? Things like that. Like, it's all just comes down to personal preference, because at the end of the day, you're burning cards in most matchups. So shout out to Vina. We are going to move into a very special list very soon. We also have Alex Szymanski up here. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. a little bit too much. We have another Mew VMAX list. Alex Szymanski's list looks probably the most balanced out of all the lists. It just depends if Tool Jammer makes sense or not. I think that's really the big question. I like 4 Ellis' Sparkles instead of 3 Bosses Orders. And I like double Meloetta. I think double Meloetta is better than 1, just in case one gets prized, so you have access to that turn 1. But right now, I think this looks like a great list overall. Really impressed with Alex's list. Probably the most out of looking at any list. It just looks the most refined. We have Simon Trottier playing Malamar with Inteleon. So Malamar, using its Rapid Strike Tentacles, really the people's champion for this event. Rapid Strike Tentacles doing 40 times the amount of Rapid Strike cards you show to your opponent and shuffle them back into your deck. I think that's it works out pretty well, and I think Simon played incredibly well. A couple changes I've made to this list in my own list. I know that I just covered Malamar on the channel. I'll probably cover this build in the future if it takes off, but I think Simone played very well with this deck. Not really a fan of Brawly. I think that Keep Calling probably does that enough, but I don't know. I think Simone's list looks very good. I think it looks really good. I really don't have much to really describe beyond it. The shading dealings is cool. It does make the Rapid Strike and the Rapid Strike Inteleon more thematic with the Scoop Up Nets, so you can get more cards back instead of Chinchino. So maybe you have more Rapid Strike cards. I haven't necessarily compared it count by count. I don't know which build of Malamar is better, but I think it is quite a powerful deck right now. And then we have our champion, Adam Kalamats. Again, both players in the finals are players that I know really well, either through playing at our League Cups when we had those, and locals and stuff like that. So yeah, Adam's list looks great. I like the double Meloetta. I probably would switch the Boston Ellis' count because I think that turn 1 is so important. Again, I think all the Mew lists practically look the same at this point, and to me, I think it's just a really good deck. And Adam's list looks about as good as all of them in general. I think like it really just comes down to personal preference, and Adam's list looks fantastic. So those are really the decks that we have for the top 8. When you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Mew decks in the top 8, not necessarily as much content to cover, although the glaring theme is Mew is very good, play Mew. So yeah, that's what we got going on for this video today, peeps. Hopefully you enjoyed learning more about the Late Night Series number 18 event. Lots of great decks, lots of great things always going on at the Late Night Series. And I mean, we do have that invitational coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. That's going to be happening in the next few weeks. I'm going to see exactly what our prize pool is going to be, but I'll talk to the sponsors relatively soon and see what they have to offer. If anything, I know it's always going to be awesome. Thank you so much for everyone for always watching my videos, playing the Late Night Series, all that stuff. If you want to learn more about the Late Night Series, that's in the description. It's on playlimitless.com. I'm literally up there on the front page. Yo, shout out Robin for putting me up there, and everyone else at the Limitless team. That being said, I'm gonna go catch up with all y'all later, and probably have a drink and get some snacks, and just kind of vibe out. All right, peace out, peeps. Have a great day. I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. It means the world to me. And my goal with this channel is to spread my love of the game and knowledge with our entire Pokemon TCG community. If you haven't already, help signal boost this video to other Pokemon TCG fans by liking it, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. Hopefully we reach our goals really soon. Check out this recommended video, and have yourself a great day. Thanks.